Now, we'll be looking at an example that will be asking us about mean and median in the same question, but I want us to pay attention to question number C, which asks us which measure of central tendency is more representative of the data set, but we'll get there when we get there, right? So we have the data set 5, 12, 7, 36, 8, 9, and 7. So because they're asking us about the median, I would prefer that we write down this data set in ascending order, right? That will not affect us. That will not affect us when we are calculating the mean. So let's just write it down in ascending order. So we'll start with 5, we'll go with 7, with 8, with 9, there are 2 7s, with another 7, with 8, with 9, 12, and 36. Now we have written it down in ascending order. So number A says determine the mean and median, right? So mean has symbol x bar, and I just say write down the formula because it doesn't hurt. We'll add the values found in the data set. There's 5 plus 7 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 12 plus 36, and we'll divide with the total number of E values found in the data set, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all over 7, and that is 84 over 7. That will give you 12. All right, that is the mean, right? So already the total number of values found in the data set, it's an odd number. So that will help us when we are doing our median. Remember, when we are finding position of E median, we use formula 1/2 n plus 1. How many values are found in this data set? 7. So we'll substitute 7 in the place of n. Then we'll have 1/2 times 8 being 4. That means that the median is found at position 4. We go to our data set, we count 1, 2, 3, 4, and therefore our median is 8. Making sense? Cool. Now question number B asks us which value is an outlier. And I'll answer this one verbally without writing on the board. 36 is an outlier compared to the other values, or 36 is an extreme value compared to them. Hey, what's happening with my laptop? Okay, and then question number B asks us which value is an outlier. Then I'll answer this one verbally instead of writing on the board. When we look at all of these values, 36 is an extreme value. You see, they are all close to one another, and then we jump the gun from 12 and we go to 36. You see, 36 is an outlier, so it's an extreme value compared to the other values, and thus an outlier, right? Cool. And then question number C, right, it asks us which measure of central tendency is more representative of the data set. Now this one I will also like to answer verbally. I'll speak as slowly as I can. But do you remember when we are starting in mean, I told you guys, I said the mean is not a good measure of essential tendency when there's an outlier, because what does it do? It affects the mean, right? Now the average will no longer be the average, but it will be higher, or it will be lower if the outlier is a very low number compared to the other numbers. It will bring it down, right? So in this case, is 36 an outlier? Yes. What did it do? It increases our average. It affects it, right? So the outlier has inflated the mean, right? We're answering question number C, which says which measure of central tendency is more representative rather of the data set, and we are answering it. Now we'll go, the outlier has inflated the mean. It is therefore not a good value to use as a measure of central tendency. Because of the outlier, our mean is not a good value to use as essential of center. So now we'll be answering question number C, which asks us which measure of essential tendency is more representative of the data set. I'll also be answering this one verbally, but I'll speak as slowly as I can. So just in case anyone is writing. So remember, in mean, right? I told you guys that the mean is a good measure of essential tendency when there is no outlier. Because what does it do when there's an outlier? It affects the mean. It either increases the mean or it decreases it if the outlier is a very, very low number compared to the other values. In this case, the outlier is a bigger number compared to the other values. But whatever the outlier, if there's an outlier, it will affect the mean. Right now, because it's an outlier in this data set, this value right here, the mean, is not a good measure of essential tendency, because if I take my calculator and there's no 36, right, as an outlier, so I'll add up these values and maybe I'll put 13 here because it's closer to the value. So I'll say 5 plus 7 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 12 plus 13, all divided by 7. If there was no outlier, then the mean would be like 8,71. If there was a value in the place of 36 that was 13, a value that was closer to the values in terms of number, the mean would be 8,71. So look at what the 36 did. It increased our mean. Do you see what I'm getting at? So therefore the mean is no longer a good measure of central tendency, right? So this is the answer. The outlier has inflated the mean. It is therefore not a good value to use as a measure of central tendency. The median is not affected by the outlier and is therefore a much better measure than the mean. Whether there's an outlier or not, it does not affect the median is 8. Yeah, so the outlier does not affect the median, right? So that is something to note when you have an outlier, that the median is a better measure of essential tendency because it's not affected by the outlier. I hope that is making sense, and now we will look at the mode.